Today, we are diving into a concept that's, well, it's been around for centuries, but honestly, it might be more relevant than ever. We're talking about the fruit of the Spirit. And no, it's not just a religious idea, it's really a blueprint for a life of character, a kind of virtue that I think anyone can appreciate.
But before we get into all the details, let me just start by asking you a question. When you hear that phrase, a fruitful life, what pops into your head? Is it success, accomplishments, money? Well, the source text we're digging into today, it offers a very different and, a very specific definition.
All right, let's get right into it. The first thing to notice is a small but really, really important detail. We often talk about the fruits of the Spirit, plural, right? As if they're a collection of separate things you can pick and choose from. But the original text, it actually says fruit, singular, and that one little letter changes everything. It means it's not a buffet of virtues, but one single unified outcome.
So, what is this singular fruit? Well, here's the core definition, and it comes straight from the book of Galatians. It's the 9 visible attributes of a life that are the result of the Holy Spirit's work. Now, that word result is the key. These aren't qualities you're meant to just grit your teeth and manufacture on your own. They're meant to grow naturally.
Okay, so if it's one single fruit, how is it expressed? Well, the text breaks it down into 9 distinct attributes. A great way to think about it is like they're 9 facets of a single, beautiful gem. Each one reflects the light a little differently, but they're all part of the same stone.
And here they are. Love, joy, peace, forbearance, which is kind of like this deep, deep patience. Then there's kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and finally, self-control. I mean, you could do a whole explainer on every single one of these, but the main thing to get is that they're all interconnected. They all flow from the very same source.
To really understand just how deep these attributes go, we're going to do a little case study on the very first one, love. Because if we can really grasp the texture and the complexity of this one attribute, it gives us a model, a way to understand the other 8.
So, just how deep does it go? Well, in another text, the Apostle Paul breaks down just this one attribute, love, into 15, that's right, 15 distinct actions. This tells you right away, this isn't about some vague, fuzzy feeling, it's about what love does, and maybe even more importantly, what it doesn't do.
And what's so fascinating here is the contrast. Just look at the 2 columns on the slide. So much of how love is defined is by what it isn't. It's not envious, it's not boastful or proud, it's not rude or self-seeking. This idea of restraint is such a powerful part of the definition. And that's all balanced, of course, by the positive actions of being patient, being kind, and rejoicing with the truth.
And the action-oriented nature of love just keeps going. It is not passive. It actively covers, believes, hopes, and endures. Another text adds that it shows compassion and forgives. I mean, this is a tough, resilient, and incredibly active definition of love. Okay, so now that we've seen the incredible depth of just one of these attributes, let's zoom out for a second. This whole idea of a virtuous life, it's not new. It has really deep roots in the Old Testament, where the prophet Micah boiled it all down to a simple yet incredibly powerful framework that really underpins the entire fruit.
And here it is, 3 clear, powerful steps. First, act justly, do what is right. Second, love mercy, which is really about kindness. And third, walk humbly with your God. This triad, justice, mercy, and humility, it basically forms the bedrock on which all 9 of those attributes of the Spirit's fruit can actually grow.
So, we have the attributes, and we have the foundation. But what does this actually look like, lived out in the messy details of life? For that, we can turn to one of the oldest books in the Bible, the book of Job, which gives us a surprisingly practical checklist for what personal integrity really is.
In this ancient text, a man named Job is defending his character, and he does it by listing his personal code of conduct. The first part is all about internal purity. He talks about staying faithful, not chasing after money, avoiding idolatry, and then there's this really tough one, not celebrating when his enemies have a hard time. Wow. I mean, that is a profound level of self-control and forbearance.
And this is the other half of his code. See, integrity isn't just about private virtue, it's about public action. Job's checklist includes caring for the vulnerable, offering hospitality. This isn't just about goodness as an idea. It shows kindness to strangers, faithfulness to the community, and the gentleness to act without hypocrisy or being afraid of what other people think.
So, we've seen the 9 attributes, the 3 foundations, and a practical checklist for integrity. Where does this all come together? Well, the New Testament presents the life of Jesus Christ as the perfect, living synthesis of all these virtues, the ultimate embodiment.
This single verse from the first letter of Peter is just incredibly potent. It captures a totally radical approach to conflict and suffering, one that's based not on retaliation, but on trust and restraint. It's a direct reflection of forbearance, of gentleness, and that deep, foundational peace we talked about.
So, the crucial point here is that this example ties everything we've talked about together. We see perfect goodness, no sin. We see faithfulness, no deceit. We see forbearance and self-control, no retaliation or threats. And then we see the ultimate act of love, bearing the sins of others. It's the fruit of the Spirit embodied.
And that brings us to our final question. And it's really a question for you. We've seen the blueprint for character laid out in these ancient texts. But in a world that so often rewards quick reactions, outrage, and self-interest, how do you actually live this out? How does one practice this kind of radical restraint and love? Well, that's the challenge.